I stare at the polished oak door of homespun Café, my cafe, willing it to swing open. The brass handle gleams in the morning light, mocking my expectations. It's been 20 minutes since our grand opening, and not a single family member has arrived. My phone vibrates against the marble countertop, another notification. I swipe open the screen to find congratulatory messages from former classmates, neighbors, even my old high school math teacher. The words blur together as I scroll. So proud of you. Can't wait to visit. Following your dreams. None from Mom. None from Dad. Nothing from Sierra or Elliot. With a knot tightening in my throat, I open our family group chat. The most recent message sits like a boulder on my chest. A photo of Mom and Dad flanking Elliot at some corporate awards ceremony. His perfect white smile beams beneath the banner reading, "Excellence in Financial Innovation." Mom's caption, "So proud of our son tonight." My stomach drops like I've missed a step on a staircase. I blink hard, fighting the sting behind my eyes as reality settles in. They've chosen Elliot. Again. On the most important day of my life, they're celebrating him instead. I set the phone face down on the counter, my hands trembling slightly. My cafe stands ready. Gleaming espresso machines, display cases filled with pastries I've spent days perfecting, hand-painted signs and cushioned window seats. Everything I've dreamed of since I was a little girl, drawing pictures of my imaginary bakery with rainbow crayons, and I stand here completely alone. As a child, I'd imagined a place where everyone felt at home, where the aroma of fresh bread and coffee wrapped around you like a warm blanket. I pictured my parents sitting at the best table, telling everyone who'd listen, "Our daughter made all this." The memory of endless double shifts floods back, waitressing mornings at the diner, bartending nights at the hotel lounge. 4 years of sore feet and aching backs, watching my savings climb dollar by dollar until I'd gathered $92,000. All while Elliot attended Wharton on our parents' dime, his apartment paid for, his future secured. "It's cute that you're interested in cooking, honey," Mom had said when I mentioned culinary school, "but it's not exactly practical, is it? Not like Elliot's business degree." I run my fingertips along the exposed brick wall, the wall I stripped, and refinished myself after finding this perfect storefront in downtown Portland. 3 months of renovation, painting until midnight, installing fixtures before dawn, learning plumbing from YouTube videos while my family asked when I would get serious about my future. For the past week, I've risen at 4 a.m. to bake, working until 9 p.m. to ensure everything would be perfect today. Perfect for the family that didn't show up. Maybe if this succeeds, they'll finally see me, I whisper to the empty cafe. The words hang in the air, pathetic and familiar. How many times have I chased their approval? How many times have I shrunk myself to fit their expectations? The memory of that art school acceptance letter burns in my mind, the one I declined because Dad said artists starve and Mom worried what relatives would think. The first of many dreams sacrificed on the altar of family approval. Years of swallowing my words when Elliot interrupted me at dinner. Years of accepting Sierra's backhanded compliments about my quirky ideas. Years of making myself smaller to avoid being labeled difficult or dramatic. Years of waiting for validation that never came. My phone buzzes again. Dad's name appears on the screen with a message that makes my jaw clench. "We need to talk about your cafe situation." My fingers hover over the keyboard. The old Carly would apologize, would ask what she'd done wrong, would beg for guidance. But something stops me. Maybe it's the sight of my logo on the window. Maybe it's the memory of signing my business license with shaking hands. Whatever it is, I type back, "The cafe is doing fine, thanks." 3 dots appear as Sierra starts typing. A moment later, a single heart emoji appears, her trademark passive-aggressive response when she disapproves but doesn't want to seem mean. I close the chat and slide the phone into my pocket. A knock on the window draws my attention. A line has formed outside, real customers waiting for my cafe to open. I smooth my apron, plaster on a smile, and unlock the door. "Welcome to Homespun," I say, holding the door wide as they stream in, oohing and awing over the display cases. "These croissants look amazing. Did you make all these yourself?" The atmosphere in here is perfect. The praise washes over me as I pour coffees and box pastries, basking in the appreciation of strangers while my family's absence echoes in the background. "Everything okay, boss?" Rachel, my barista, asks during a brief lull. She catches me staring at my phone again, checking for messages that aren't there. I tuck the phone away and straighten my shoulders. "Just family stuff." I nod toward the bustling cafe. where customers chat at tables and lounge in window seats, exactly as I'd imagined. This is what matters now. The words feel true as I say them, even as the ache of invisibility lingers beneath my ribs. Maybe this cafe isn't just about proving something to my family. Maybe it's about proving something to myself. A young woman approaches the counter, holding one of my lavender shortbread cookies. "This is the best thing I've eaten in months," she tells me, eyes wide with delight. "I'll definitely be back tomorrow." I smile at her, genuine this time. "I'll be here, I promise. Every day." On Sunday, 3 weeks later, the familiar scent of Mom's potpourri hits me as I step through the front door of my childhood home. My stomach tightens, the way it always does before these family talks. I'm not fooled by the invitation to Sunday dinner. The text message from Dad made it clear this would be about discussing your business venture. There she is. Elliot's voice booms from the living room. My brother lounges in Dad's leather armchair, one ankle crossed over his knee, designer watch glinting as he raises his whiskey in mock salute. "How's life in the cupcake world?" I force a smile, ignoring the diminutive description of my cafe. "Homespun is doing well, actually. We had lines out the door this weekend." "That's nice, honey." Mom emerges from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Your father wants to talk to you in his study before dinner." Of course he does. The study is where serious family business happens, where Elliot received praise for his Wharton acceptance, where Sierra announced her promotion to digital marketing director. Never where I've received anything but concern and correction. Dad sits behind his mahogany desk, reading glasses perched on the bridge of his nose. The Forbes magazine on his blotter is folded open to a specific article, which he slides toward me without looking up. 80% of cafes fail within 3 years. I read aloud, my voice flat. "Richard," Mom says softly from the doorway, "let's at least let her eat something first." "This can't wait, Lillian." Dad removes his glasses, fixing me with the stern gaze that once made me confess to borrowing his car at 16. "Your mother and I have been discussing your situation." "My situation?" Heat creeps up my neck. "You mean my business? The one that's been open for 3 weeks and is already exceeding projections?" "Projections you made," Sierra chimes in, leaning against the doorframe beside Mom, without any real business experience. I turn to face my sister. At 33, she's the spitting image of Mom, same honey, blonde hair, same delicate features, but with Dad's unflinching certainty. I did market research. I took business classes at the community college. "Community college?" Elliot snorts, appearing behind Sierra with a fresh drink. "That's adorable." "You're creative, honey," Mom says, her tone softer but no less patronizing. "That's a wonderful gift, but you're not practical. You never have been." "You've invested your entire savings into this venture," Dad continues, tapping the Forbes article, "without consulting anyone who actually understands business." "I consulted plenty of people," I protest. "Professional bakers, cafe owners." Other dreamers Dad dismisses with a wave. Not financial advisors, not business strategists. "Which is why we have a proposal." Elliot steps forward, setting down his glass on Dad's desk. "I'll oversee the financials. I have experience turning around failing businesses." "Failing?" My voice cracks. "Homespun isn't failing." "Not yet," Sierra mutters, examining her manicure. "As a consultant, I normally charge for this service," Elliot continues as if I hadn't spoken. "But as family, I'm offering to help pro bono. All you need to do is add me to your business account so I can monitor cash flow and make necessary adjustments." The room seems to shrink around me. "You want access to my business account?" The very thought makes my hands go cold. Years of double shifts, of coming home with feet so sore I cried in the shower, of counting every penny and they want to hand control to Elliot. "It's for your own good," Mom says, reaching for my hand. I pull away. "We're trying to help," Dad says, his tone hardening, "before you lose everything." The unspoken threat hangs in the air: cooperate or face their disappointment, their withdrawal. Again, the invisible strings they've always attached to their love tightening around my throat. "When this collapses," Dad continues, leaning back in his chair, "don't say we didn't try to help." When, not if. The certainty in his voice should crush me. Instead, something shifts inside my chest. A quiet click, like a lock turning. I've seen this scene before, their concern masquerading as support while they position Elliot as my savior. I've played my part too many times, nodding gratefully as they explained why my dreams needed their guidance, their control. But looking at them now, Dad's stern disapproval, Mom's worried resignation, Sierra's smug superiority, Elliot's confident smile, I realize they've never actually believed in me, not once. Their help has always been about control, never support. I don't need to argue. I don't need to defend my business plan or my financial projections, or the growing customer base that returns day after day. Words won't change their minds, only proof will. Thank you for your concern, I say finally, my voice steadier than I expected. I'll think about it. The surprise on their faces is almost comical. They expected tears or anger or immediate capitulation, not this calm consideration. That's all we ask. Mom says quickly, relief softening her features. Now, dinner's getting cold. As we move to the dining room, my phone vibrates in my pocket. A text from Rachel. How's the family ambush going? Need an emergency call to escape? A smile tugs at my lips as I type back. Not yet. Thanks for checking. Another message appears from Tessa, the florist whose shop sits 2 doors down from Homespun. Customer loved your croissants with my arrangements, thinking we could do a Mother's Day special together? Behind her message is one from the barbershop owner across the street suggesting a cross-promotion, haircut discounts with coffee purchase. And below that, an email notification, Portland Chronicle food writer requests interview about new downtown cafe sensation. I slide my phone back into my pocket as Elliot regales everyone with stories of his latest consulting triumph. Under the table, my fingers unclench. I don't need my family's validation to succeed. I just need to prove them wrong. 4 days later, the phone rings for the 3rd time this week, right on schedule. Dad's name flashes across my screen as I slide trays of sourdough into the oven. Willow and whisk. This is Carly. I answer professionally, balancing the phone between my ear and shoulder. Just checking in, Dad says, his tone casual, but purpose transparent. Wanted to see how things are going with the cafe situation. I brush flour from my hands. Business is great, actually. Just pulled in our highest weekend numbers yet. That's nice. The hesitation says everything. I read that small businesses often see a honeymoon period before reality sets in. Just want to make sure you're prepared for when things level out. My jaw tightens. I appreciate your concern. Your mother and I worry. That's what parents do. After we hang up, I mark another tally in my notebook under Dad's concerned calls, number 12 since opening day. The bell above the door jingles as Mom breezes in, unannounced designer purse swinging from her arm. Surprise. There. She plants an air kiss near my cheek. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd see how things are going. Just wrapped up the morning rush. I gesture to the half-empty display cases. As you can see, we sold out of most pastries before 11. She peers around, fingertip tracing invisible dust on a countertop. Have you considered hiring more help? You look tired. Before I can respond, my phone buzzes with a text from Elliot. Interesting article on why independent cafes struggle to compete with chains. Thought it might help you pivot before it's too late. Link attached. Moments later, Sierra's message follows. Just passed a franchise opportunity downtown. Much more stable income than going solo. Want me to grab you a brochure? I slide the phone into my pocket without responding, and focus instead on the notebook in front of me. Each page contains meticulously documented sales figures, customer counts, and positive reviews. The numbers don't lie. We're growing steadily each week. In the kitchen, I perfect my signature strawberry lavender tart, the recipe I spent months developing, the one that can't be found in any other bakery in Portland. The delicate balance of floral and fruity notes has become our most requested item. The florist on Maple wants to display your business cards, Rachel says, entering with a fresh stack of mail. Says customers always ask where to get coffee after buying flowers. I smile, adding this to my growing partnership list. The local bookstore already offers a discount to anyone with a Willow and Whisk receipt, and we return the favor. The vintage clothing boutique displays our pastries during their weekend fashion shows. The neighborhood brewery features our coffee in their morning hours. Speaking of partnerships, Rachel continues, that Instagram post of your cinnamon rolls got over 200 likes overnight. The food photographer you hired really knows her angles. I check the account on my break. Our follower count has tripled since I invested in professional food photography. Each image showcases not just the food, but the warm, inviting atmosphere of Willow and whisk, the hand-painted mugs, the reclaimed wood tables, the window seats where regulars settle in with books for hours. The community tasting day flyers sit ready by the register, announcing this weekend's event. 5 new experimental pastries, limited quantities, first come, first served. The local food blogger who promised to attend has 8,000 followers. Friday morning brings the usual rush of commuters, the line stretching out the door. I'm balancing 3 drink orders when I spot Elliot striding through the entrance, his tailored suit out of place among the casual customers. Busy morning? He raises an eyebrow, assessing the crowd. The usual. I hand a latte to a regular who smiles gratefully. Elliot settles at the counter, briefcase open. Thought I'd stop by and look at your books while you handle things, give you some professional insight. The cafe hums with conversation. 3 college students debate philosophy in the corner. A writer types furiously at her laptop. An elderly couple shares a scone, holding hands across the table. I'm handling my finances just fine, I say, voice steady despite the flash of irritation. Come on, Carly. He lowers his voice. We both know hobby businesses need proper oversight. Let me help before you get in over your head. The words hit their target with precision. I set down the pitcher I'm holding and look him directly in the eye. This isn't a hobby, Elliot. It's a business. My business. And right now, I have paying customers to serve. I gesture toward the door. His expression hardens as he recognizes the dismissal. The bell jingles his exit. Everything okay? Rachel approaches, concern evident in her furrowed brow. Just family being family. I straighten my shoulders and return to the espresso machine. She squeezes my arm. For what it's worth, I'd choose your coffee over any chain in Portland. We all would. She nods toward the regulars who've witnessed the exchange. Throughout the afternoon, notifications ping my phone. A customer tags us in a post about our life-changing almond croissants. The bookstore owner sends a message about the surge in business on days when they advertise our pastry deliveries. A tourist stops to tell me the vintage shop owner insisted she visit Portland's coziest cafe before leaving town. Saturday brings unexpected excitement. A woman in a pressed blazer enters during the mid-morning lull, notebook in hand. Carly Monroe? She extends her business card. Vanessa Walker, Portland Chronicle. I'm writing a feature on independent businesses thriving despite corporate competition. Your name keeps coming up. I blink in surprise. My cafe? The cozy cafe that outsold chains downtown. That's my working title. She smiles. Your sales figures compared to the chain 3 blocks down are impressive. Mind if I ask you some questions? The interview lasts through my lunch break. Vanessa photographs the space, the pastries, and me behind the counter. She notes the steady stream of customers, the warm greetings exchanged, the comfortable atmosphere that chains try to replicate but never quite capture. When she leaves, I check my email to find a catering inquiry from Technova, the prestigious software company whose headquarters opened downtown last month. We've heard wonderful things about your pastries, the message reads. Would you be interested in providing breakfast for our weekly executive meetings? Sunday afternoon, the Chronicle article goes live. The headline reads exactly as Vanessa promised, with a subheading, How Willow and Whisk Created a Community Hub While Outperforming Corporate Rivals. The article highlights our consistent growth, our partnerships with local businesses, and quotes from regulars who choose us over cheaper, more convenient chains. There's a graph showing our sales trajectory, a steady upward climb that defies the typical first-year slump most new businesses experience. My phone rings nonstop with congratulations. The cafe fills with curious newcomers clutching the newspaper. Rachel pins the article to our bulletin board. That evening, I curl up in my apartment above the cafe, listening to the familiar creaks of the old building settling. The article sits open on my tablet. With a deep breath, I copy the link and paste it into the family group chat with a simple message. Willow and Whisk got featured today. I set the phone down, not waiting for responses. Tomorrow brings another day of early baking, another day of proving myself not to them, but to me. The journey continues, one pastry at a time. The aroma of fresh sourdough fills the cafe as I pull another batch from the oven. 6 months in, and homespun has evolved from my desperate dream into something thriving and real. The chalkboard menu above the counter has doubled in size, featuring customer favorites that started as experimental weekend specials. Emma, can you take these scones to the display case? I hand a tray to one of my new part-time employees, still getting used to delegating after months of doing everything myself. She nods with a smile. Sure thing, Carly. They smell amazing. The lavender honey ones sold out before noon yesterday, says Thomas, my other new hire, as he steams milk for a cappuccino. Should I tell customers we're limiting 2 per person today? I consider this while wiping flour from my hands. Let's see how it goes. I made an extra batch. The cafe hums with morning activity, laptops open, conversations flowing, the espresso machine singing. My gaze drifts to the wall where local papers have featured homespun in 3 separate articles. The latest headline reads, Portland's hidden gem no longer hidden. Behind the counter, a new industrial mixer stands beside my original one necessary expansion after landing contracts with 3 local hotels. The Riverside, the Magnolia, and the Wellington now serve my pastries with their morning coffee service. Their daily orders alone have pushed my revenue to heights I never imagined. Monthly total, Rachel announces, sliding a paper across the counter during a rare, quiet moment. She's graduated from barista to assistant manager, handling finances while I focus on baking and expansion. The number at the bottom makes me blink twice. $48,000. That can't be right. I whisper. Double-checked it myself, Rachel says with a proud smile. Up 17% from last month. The hotel accounts put us over the top. I lean against the counter, legs suddenly wobbly. When I opened Homespun, Dad predicted I'd be lucky to break $15,000 a month after expenses. Now we've more than tripled that estimate. My phone buzzes with the distinct tone I've assigned to family messages. For a moment, I consider ignoring it. These days, I don't rush to check their texts like I once did. But curiosity wins. Dad, saw another article about your cafe. Remember, a flash in the pan isn't success. My heart sinks slightly, but not like before. The words don't cut as deeply now. I scroll down to see Elliot has chimed in. Elliot, popularity isn't profit, Carly. How are your margins looking? Then Sierra, you've had such lucky timing with that location. Hope it lasts. Mom completes the quartet. Honey, we're just worried you're working too hard on something temporary. Don't burn yourself out. 6 months ago, these messages would have launched me into a spiral of defensive explanations and desperate proof offering. I would have typed paragraph-long responses with attached spreadsheets and business projections, begging for validation. Today, I simply type, M&O, monthly revenue just hit $48,000. We're expanding wholesale to 3 hotels. If you're interested in seeing the operation, we're hosting a community tasting day next Saturday. All welcome. I pocket my phone without waiting for responses. The kitchen timer beeps, calling me back to what actually matters. Later that evening, I sit in Dr. Winter's office for my bi-weekly therapy session. The soft leather chair cradles me as I describe the family texts. Notice anything about your reaction this time? She asks, her silver-framed glasses reflecting the warm lamplight. I didn't feel the need to prove anything. I realize aloud. I just stated facts. She nods. That's significant progress. What's changed? I consider this, tracing patterns in the carpet with my eyes. I think I finally see the pattern. No matter what I achieve, they minimize it. If I make $15,000, they'll say, it's not $30,000. If I make $48,000, they'll say it's just luck or temporary. And what does that tell you? Dr. Winters asks. That it's not about me. The realization settles in my chest, heavy but somehow freeing. It's about their insecurity. Or maybe their fixed idea of who I am in the family system. The screw-up, the dreamer, the impractical one. Which means I'll never get the validation I've been seeking, I say, the truth of it both painful and liberating. They can't give what they don't have. She smiles gently. So where does that leave you? I think about the woman who came back 3 times last week for my cardamom coffee cake. About the hotel manager who called my pastries the highlight of guests' mornings. About Emma and Thomas choosing to work at Homespun when they had other offers. It leaves me, creating, instead of proving. I say finally, building something that fulfills me rather than chasing approval I'll never get. The weight that lifts from my shoulders nearly makes me float out of the chair. Saturday arrives with perfect weather for the community tasting day. Tables spill onto the sidewalk where we've set up samples of new menu items for customers to try. Local vendors I've partnered with have booths displaying their coffees, teas, and jams that complement my baking. The lemon blueberry tart is getting rave reviews, Emma reports, refilling a sample tray. And those journalists from Food Portland want to speak with you when you have a minute. I'm about to head their way, when a familiar silver SUV parks across the street. My stomach tightens as four figures emerge: Dad in his weekend golf shirt, Mom clutching her designer handbag, Elliot in business casual despite the weekend, and Sierra with her picture-perfect family in tow. They weren't supposed to come. I invited them as a courtesy, never expecting them to show up. Rachel notices my expression. Family? She asks knowingly. I nod, straightening my homespun apron. This should be interesting. They move through the event like visiting dignitaries, examining everything with critical eyes. I greet them with professional courtesy, then excuse myself to speak with the journalists. From the corner of my eye, I watch the family dynamics unfold. Dad picks up a croissant, breaking it apart. The lamination could be more consistent, he announces loud enough for nearby customers to hear. Carly always rushes the folding process. Mom brushes imaginary crumbs from a perfectly clean table. The tables are a bit close together, don't you think? It feels cramped. Sierra rearranges the sample display. These would look better grouped by color rather than flavor, she tells Thomas, who glances at me with confusion. But it's Elliot who truly oversteps. I finish my interview to find him deep in conversation with the journalist, one hand casually propped on the counter as if he owns the place. As I was telling my sister when she was developing the business model, he's saying, artisanal quality at scale requires systematic efficiency. I helped implement some of those systems. The journalist nods, scribbling notes. I step forward, temperature rising. Before I can speak, Dad joins them. The initial investment was substantial, he tells the reporter with a knowing nod. Sometimes these creative types need a little financial backing from family to get started. The lie hangs in the air between us. Every penny that built Homespun came from my savings, my sweat, my sleepless nights. For a brief moment, the old Carly resurfaces, the one desperate for approval, afraid to correct her family, willing to shrink herself to keep peace. But then I look around at what I've built, at the community enjoying my food, at the employees who depend on me. I step forward, not with anger or defensiveness, but with quiet certainty. The journalists turn toward me, and in that moment, I realize I don't need to fight or defend. My success speaks for itself. Thank you all for coming, I say to my family, loud enough for the reporters to hear. It means a lot that you could see what I've built completely from scratch. The emphasis isn't lost on anyone. Dad's expression tightens, Elliot shifts uncomfortably, and Mom suddenly finds her purse fascinating. But for the first time, their discomfort isn't mine to fix. I turn to the journalists with a smile. Now, you were asking about our expansion plans? As I lead the reporters away, I feel something settle within me, not triumph or vindication, but something quieter and more lasting: freedom. A week after the gathering, the text message arrives while I'm arranging pastries in the display case. Family dinner tonight. We need to discuss the cafe's future. My father's name glows on the screen, the words deceptively casual, as if we regularly gather for meals and conversation. I stare at my phone, thumb hovering over the keyboard. It's been weeks since the awkward silence that followed my soft no to their offer of help. Weeks of record sales and glowing reviews they've pretended not to notice. Everything okay? Rachel asks, peering over my shoulder. Family dinner invitation, I say, setting the phone aside. To discuss my future, apparently. She snorts. You mean the future of your wildly successful business they didn't believe in? I smile despite the knot forming in my stomach. Exactly that one. Later, I sit at my parents' mahogany dining table, the same table where my business ideas were once dismissed as cute little projects. My mother serves her signature pot roast while my father clears his throat. Importantly, Carly, he begins, using his boardroom voice, your mother and I have been talking. Now that the cafe has proven viable, I'd like to officially invest. I take a small bite of roast, giving myself time to respond. Invest? That's unexpected. He leans forward, excitement building. I've drawn up plans for expansion. We could turn Homespun into a franchise. Elliot could handle the business side, of course. Elliot nods, already reaching for his portfolio. I've outlined a 5-year growth strategy. You'd need minimal capital if we leverage your current assets correctly. I could professionalize your social media, Sierra chimes in, scrolling through her phone. Your current aesthetic is charming, but lacks cohesion. My mother places her hand over mine. Think about it, sweetie. A real family business. Wouldn't that be wonderful? All of us working together? The pressure builds around me like rising water. I recognize this strategy, the coordinated approach, coming at me from all sides until I'm too overwhelmed to resist. This could strengthen our family bonds. My mother continues, voice soft with practiced sincerity. You've been so independent lately. It feels like you're pulling away. My father frowns. Success shouldn't come at the cost of family unity, Carly. Going solo when you could have family backing seems... Sierra pauses, selecting her word carefully. Selfish. The implied threat hangs in the air. Refuse partnership, lose emotional connection. I've spent a lifetime fearing exactly this. Your initial success is impressive, my father concedes, but without proper business expertise, these things rarely last. I'm saved from responding by my phone buzzing. I glance down to see my supplier's name. Excuse me, I need to take this. I step into the hallway, grateful for the interruption until I hear the message. We're discontinuing service to smaller accounts. Supply chain issues. Last delivery next week unless you can guarantee minimum orders of... The number he quotes is staggering, impossible for a cafe my size. Perfect timing. My family offers salvation, just as disaster threatens. The coincidence feels almost orchestrated. I return to the table, where 4 expectant faces wait. For a moment, I consider giving in. The supplier crisis could devastate my business. My family's resources could solve the problem instantly. But something stops me. Maybe it's the memory of dawn light filtering through my cafe windows. Maybe it's the weight of the keys in my pocket, keys to something I built entirely myself. Thank you for the offer, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. But I need to decline. My father's eyebrows shoot up. Carly, be reasonable. I built this without your help or belief, I continue, the words I've rehearsed in my mind finally finding air. And I'll continue that way. I reach into my bag and pull out a folder. I've just signed an exclusive contract with Blackbird Roasters. They won the Regional Barista Championship 3 years running. I slide the contract across the table. They're supplying me at premium rates because they believe in what I'm building. Sierra's mouth opens slightly. But aren't suppliers cutting small accounts? Some are, I agree, pulling out another document. These are my quarterly financials. I'm exceeding projections by 32%. My father's fingers twitch toward the papers. And this, I say, placing a final document on the table, is the lease for my second location, downtown, near the art museum. Silence blankets the room. For the first time in my life, I've rendered my family speechless. The community tasting day arrives 3 weeks later. Customers spill onto the sidewalk, clutching coffee cups and sample plates. A reporter from the Portland Herald weaves through the crowd, notebook in hand. Excuse me, she says, approaching Elliot near the pastry table. Are you with the cafe? He straightens his tie. I'm Elliot Monroe. Oh. Her eyes light with recognition. Your sister's business is kind of a local phenomenon. Everyone's talking about her expansion plans. I step forward, unable to resist. This is my business, I clarify. And no, I don't need financial oversight. So, clarify. Elliot's face flushes as the reporter turns away, already distracted by the mayor's arrival. Carly Monroe! Mayor Thompson calls, extending her hand. Congratulations on transforming this corner. Your cafe has become a neighborhood anchor. Miss Monroe, interrupts an older gentleman in a tailored suit. The Business Association would like to present you with this year's Entrepreneurship Award. My father stands frozen nearby, watching as his golf partner, the city's most respected real estate developer, enthusiastically shakes my hand. Your customer retention strategies are remarkable, whispers the owner of a competing coffee shop. Would you consider sharing your approach at our next industry meeting? The owner of the bookstore next door squeezes my arm. My foot traffic has doubled since you opened. Thank you. I feel dizzy with vindication as the evidence mounts. My hobby has revitalized an entire block. The shift in power becomes palpable as my family witnesses my triumph. Elliot stands taller, no longer the only successful child, uncertainty flickering across his face. My father awkwardly accepts congratulations for his daughter's achievement, discomfort evident in his stiff smile. Sierra approaches hesitantly. Your cafe photos are stunning. Would you share some photography tips for my clients? And finally, my mother finds me alone by the register, tears glistening in her eyes. I never thought this would work, she admits, voice barely audible. I look around at my thriving business, at customers enjoying my food, at staff I've trained, at a dream manifested through my own persistence. I know. I tell her, the words no longer bitter on my tongue. That's why I had to prove it to myself. The glossy pages of Food and Flavor magazine spread across my desk, my cafe featured in a 4-page spread. Willow and Whisk. Portland's hidden gem shines bright. I trace my fingers over the photos, customers lounging in window seats, display cases brimming with pastries, my signature lavender shortbread cookies arranged in perfect rows. Boss? Trevor knocks on my office door, clipboard in hand. The corporate order for Lewis Financial is ready for delivery, and the Hendersons confirmed final numbers for their wedding tasting tomorrow. Thanks. I smile at him, one of 12 dedicated employees who've helped transform my dream into something greater than I ever imagined. How are the workshops shaping up? 23 signups for your pastry class next week. We might need to add another session. 1 year. 1 year since I stood alone in this space, wondering if anyone would come. Now we're juggling a second location across town, a booming catering division, monthly baking workshops, and a line of packaged goods stocked in specialty stores throughout Oregon. Carly. Rachel bursts in, carrying a massive flower arrangement. These just arrived for the anniversary party. Where should I put them? By the entrance, the caterers arrive at 4. I check my watch. I can't believe we hired caterers. Feels strange not cooking for our own celebration. You deserve to enjoy your party without working it. She gives me a knowing look. Your family confirmed they're coming? I nod, my stomach no longer dropping at the question. All of them. The cafe transforms throughout the afternoon, twinkling lights, champagne flutes, framed photographs chronicling our journey. I adjust a centerpiece as the first guests arrive, loyal customers, local vendors, fellow small business owners who've become friends. And then my family walks in. Dad shakes hands with my head pastry chef. Mom admires the decor. Elliot and Sierra weave through the crowd, stopping to examine the packaged cookie display. But they're not the center of my focus. They're simply part of the tapestry of this moment. Rachel taps a glass for attention. A toast, she announces, raising her champagne, to the woman who never gave up on her dream. Applause ripples through the room. I scan the familiar faces surrounding me, the same family members who missed my grand opening, but the dynamic couldn't be more different. They're here as guests, not validators. Their presence is welcome but no longer necessary. Congratulations, Carly, Mom says, approaching with a gift bag. The magazine feature is impressive. Thanks. I accept the bag without the desperate need for her approval that once consumed me. Have you thought about expanding the packaged line? I noticed a gap in the gluten-free market. Dad suggests. A year ago, this comment would have triggered anxiety, made me question every business decision. Now I simply nod. We're exploring options for next quarter. Later, I retreat to my office for a moment of quiet. I flip open my journal, reading my entry from this morning. Success isn't proving others wrong, it's proving yourself right. Words I've finally learned to live by. The monthly boundaries check-in with Dr. Marshall has helped separate my family relationships from my business identity. I recognize my parents' limited perspective without resentment. I appreciate Elliot's marketing suggestions while honoring my own instincts. Our interactions have quality now, if not quantity. My internship program for community college students starts next month. 5 aspiring bakers will learn what took me years to discover. Build something because you love it, not to prove a point. I'll tell them. The revenge narrative I once clung to has transformed into something more valuable: inspiration. Knock knock. Elliot appears in the doorway. Got a minute? I've been thinking about starting my own consulting firm. Would love your input on the business plan. The irony isn't lost on me. My brother, the golden child with the Wharton degree, seeking my advice. Later still, I overhear Dad talking to his business associates. My daughter's place, he says, pride evident in his voice. Sierra shows off Willow and Whisk photos in her marketing portfolio. Mom discusses baking techniques she's learned from me for family gatherings. Not hierarchy, but mutual respect. After everyone leaves, I lock the door behind them, and stand alone in the darkened cafe. I run my hand along the worn brick walls that once seemed impossible to afford. My gaze drifts to two framed items side by side, my first dollar earned, and the Portland Chronicle article that declared Willow and Whisk a culinary destination. They called it a hobby. Now it's my life. But more importantly, it's always been my passion, whether they saw it or not. External validation was never the true goal. I realize that now, standing amidst the life I've built brick by brick, pastry by pastry, following a vision that was always clear to me, even when others couldn't see it. Have you ever pursued a dream others dismissed as impractical? What would you tell someone whose passion isn't being taken seriously by the people closest to them? Share your thoughts below.